I know it may come as a surprise, but the brief arc of Goyo's past has come to an end. Despite some stumbles, the anime successfully concludes the arc of the hidden inventory and premature death. It is impactful for the characters, as the changes from recent events will clearly have lasting repercussions on the story. Ghetto and Goyo have parted ways, and a glimmer of hope emerges. While we all eagerly await the Shibuya incident, few arcs in the series have had the complexity and depth of this one. But let's set aside the talk, get comfortable, and together analyze everything that happened in the last episode of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. I must be honest from the outset, Subaru Ghetto's character has been one of my favorites. His intense hatred for non-sorcerers is not merely generalized, it has a reason behind it. After recent events, it becomes clear how Doji altered the course of history and its impact on the series as a whole. Unbeknownst to him, Ghetto's actions led to Goyo's growth as the strongest. Moreover, they fueled Ghetto's downward spiral. It's easy to see him as a villain who came to hate non-sorcerers, but his descent into villainy cannot be attributed to a specific event. Ghetto's fall was a combination of his experiences with people, the flawed system, his own ideals, and, yes, a bit of bad luck. The sudden appearance of Toji Fujiguro blurred the lines between weak and strong in an instant. Toji, the MVP of this event, was like a butterfly effect that changed everything. What seemed like a breath of life after a cruel twist of fate turned into the beginning of another disaster. Goyo and Ghetto were opposites from the start, but now the abyss between them has become an insurmountable gap. For Goyo, his achievement was his own growth, while for Ghetto, it was the fulfillment of his purpose. They both drew entirely different outcomes from Riko's death. Goyo faced a momentary defeat, but his momentum quickly propelled him to become the strongest of all. The further Ghetto drifted from his purpose, the more he distanced himself from his best friend, Goyo. He couldn't witness the confrontation from the distance he found himself in. The psychological toll on Ghetto, stemming from everything he had experienced, led him to see humans as simians. When Suguru Ghetto had a conversation with Yuki, he already considered himself the bad guy, and had started deviating from his ideals. He was at war with himself, as mentioned by the peculiar sorceress who appeared before them. This sorceress, introduced in the first season as the Master of All, has a different perspective. Unlike the elders of Jujutsu Kaisen, she works hard in her own way. Although everyone in the academy sees her as someone who simply wanders the world without really doing anything, she wants to exorcise curses once and for all, instead of one by one. Her mysterious approach and special grade powers add an intriguing element to the plot. Yes, I understand. It sounds like he's considering some genocidal plan, as it seems impossible for humans, while living on Earth, not to experience negative emotions that give rise to curses. This conversation is crucial. At the time, I was a good person and a dedicated sorcerer. Perhaps I knew the dark side of things, but despite that, I understood what needed to be done. There were chasms in understanding between Ghetto and me at that time, but now I see that everything was wrong, it had to be. Then came Yuki, and unknowingly, she gave Ghetto the reassurance that he wasn't the only one with dual thoughts. There was something more significant in this conversation. Yuki inadvertently gave purpose to Ghetto's hatred towards non-sorcerers. Up until that point, he only knew that he hated those weak simians, but now he saw it as a containment of the strong. Under this veil, Ghetto would never act unless there was a reason and meaning behind his actions. It was at this moment that everything that had happened and was happening took on meaning. All of this was possible solely thanks to those despicable simians. These feelings were further fueled by the death of Hybera and Ghetto's encounter with the two girls on his last mission. Hybera, as we saw, was a good person who gladly assumed responsibility, dedicating her life to it. Despite there being hundreds, if not thousands, of sorcerers in the world who thought similarly, all Ghetto could see in the end was a pile of corpses. He was grappling with himself, trying to justify why the dead should perish for the weak. This point also marked the generalization that sorcerers are the only ones worth anything. In this sense, we could say that Yuki, ultimately, was the perfect catalyst for Ghetto to choose the wrong side, strange as it may seem. The incident of the cursed village became the final nail in the coffin of humanity, where Ghetto, as a witness to human cruelty, murdered 112 villagers, freed the girls, and transformed into a malevolent curse user. Not content with that, he also ended the lives of his own parents to emphasize his point. Although he developed a god complex, Ghetto understood the selfish miasma emanating from the human heart. Every applause for Riko's death echoed like a needle in Ghetto's ears, slowly but constantly. He longed for a world without curse users and refused to be sacrificed by those who needed help. Ghetto's feelings were etched in stone. He hated the weak and was now willing to kill them. He had a clear purpose and was determined to move forward to achieve it. Perhaps he knew that his path would generate hatred and be considered genocide, but all he could do was for a greater good. It was a way to stop the illogical and reckless cycle of the strong dying for the weak. He no longer cared if anyone understood him. Ghetto's frustration and anger erupted in genocide. This fall makes you wonder if, for a moment, Ghetto too was a victim of selfishness. We don't know. He took his bundle of experiences and felt them to a greater degree because everything was personal for him. However, he was surely a victim of the system to some extent. Ghetto's spiral was inevitable but equally unfortunate. Despite everything, Ghetto was an incredibly kind, polite, and affectionate person. He was willing to support and guide Goyo in some way, even though they were complete opposites. At times, Goyo wished his best friend had noticed him more, but that would have changed something. When Goyo realized, it was already too late. Wondering about something as trivial as why Ghetto crossed that bridge long ago lingered in his mind, completely alone. Ghetto no longer needed anyone to understand him. He knew what he had to do, even if it meant tarnishing his name. Ghetto's spiral was a harsh lesson for everyone around him. Goyo and Nanamine emphasized this fact even more for their students in the subsequent story. Nanamine wanted Yuji to continue being a youth and let the adults handle the dirty work. He had witnessed Ghetto's fall up close and perhaps didn't want another child to bear the ugliness of this world for the worse. The detailed step-by-step fall of Ghetto is truly a work of art, capable of conveying the feeling of suffocation and dilemma he experiences. After being defeated by Goyo, Toji decides to be honest with him about his feelings. He reveals to Goyo that Megumi will be handed over to the clan and asks him to do as he pleases, a subtle way of seeking his help for his son's escape. Toji's main motivation for entrusting Megumi to Goyo is to ensure his safety and future. Toji has experienced enough suffering and pain in his own life to understand what awaits Megumi. Recognizing that Megumi needs someone to guide and protect him from the dangers of being a jujutsu sorcerer, Goyo becomes the natural choice. Goyo is a powerful sorcerer known for his dedication to protecting his allies, a quality he himself lacked in the past. Probably for this reason, Toji trusts Goyo in an attempt to break the cycle of pain and misfortune that has plagued his family for generations. The Sennin clan, to which both Toji and Megumi belong, has a dark history and a destructive quest for power. Toji has first-hand experience of the pain and suffering caused by the Zen clan, and he doesn't want the same fate for his son. By entrusting Megumi to Goyo, Toji hopes to keep his son safe from the influence of the Zen clan and give him the opportunity to forge his own destiny. Of course, I would love to hear your thoughts on this chapter. Didn't it seem impactful to you? We'll see you in the next video. By the way, don't forget to follow me and subscribe to the channel, that would help me a lot. This is Prime Animes, and we'll see you next time.